Hey everyone, let's just jump right into this. Welcome to this brand new explainer. Today, we're looking at something absolutely fascinating: how geography, the actual physical spaces around us, completely dictates the human experience. I mean, think about it. How in the world does a 100-year swimming ban in a major European capital connect to a desperate retreat for a hay fever cure that literally birthed quantum physics? It sounds wild, I know, but it all comes down to the places these events happen. We're going to connect the dots today and see exactly how the where drives the entire story of our world. So, to map this all out, we're going to hit 4 main stops today: unearthing the distant past, science and human milestones, Earth's volatile forces, and finally, modern geopolitics. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, unearthing the distant past, where we'll look at relics of both human and natural history. I want to start you off with a pretty mind-boggling piece of trivia. Any idea where 18 to 20 million-year-old proteins were recently discovered by researchers? Just pause and think about that timeline for a second. Millions of years. It's almost hard to wrap your head around. Well, the answer is Lake Turkana. It's located right there in northern Kenya, extending just slightly over the border into Ethiopia. Scientists actually managed to extract these ancient proteins from the tooth enamel of extinct mammals found near the lake's shores. And Lake Turkana itself is just an incredible place. It is Africa's 4th largest lake. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and get this, it holds the title of the world's largest permanent desert lake. To really put this into perspective, think about the staggering scale of time we're dealing with here. We've got 20 million-year-old natural history at Lake Turkana, but then you jump across the timeline to our own ancient human footprints. For example, archaeologists recently found a 3,500-year-old ancient city called Penaco in Peru, founded somewhere between 1800 and 1500 BC. That's about 200 kilometers north of Lima, sitting right near Caral, which is the oldest known civilization in the Americas, established around 3000 BC. The Earth just perfectly preserves both deep natural time and our own human history. Moving right along to Section 2, science and human milestones. We're talking major breakthroughs and triumphs. Okay, so we just looked at ancient archaeology, but let's pivot to modern physics. Have you ever wondered where exactly quantum theory was actually born? Believe it or not, the answer fits into a space less than 1 square kilometer. That is the entire footprint of a place called Helgoland. It's this tiny red sandstone island sitting way out in the German Bay of the North Sea. It was originally used as a naval fortress, but its absolute biggest claim to fame is scientific. Here is where the story gets really wild. It's all about how a physical ailment quite literally changed science forever. Back in June 1925, the physicist Werner Heisenberg was suffering from a brutally bad case of hay fever. He just desperately needed some relief, so he retreated to this tiny, isolated island of Helgoland. And while he was there, completely away from everything, he decided to just abandon the old idea of electrons orbiting nuclei. Instead, he focused entirely on observable experimental data, organizing light absorption and emission data into these grids called matrices. Yep, quantum theory was literally born on a hay fever retreat. No way he could have predicted that. And you know, it kind of makes you think about how our big human milestones continually reshape our world, especially our waterways. Look at these 2 massive water milestones happening right now. On one hand, you have the River Seine in France, where swimmers have officially returned after a massive 100-year ban that started all the way back in 1923. Paris is literally reclaiming its historic waters. But then, on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia just announced the completion of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam on the Blue Nile River, a totally brand new monumental engineering achievement. Let's actually zoom in on the Seine for a second, because it's way more than just a newly reopened swimming spot. The river stretches 775 kilometers, sure, but its drainage area, the Paris Basin, is what's truly staggering. We're talking 79,000 square kilometers. 62% of that basin supports agriculture. It holds a quarter of France's entire farm activity and supports up to 30% of its industry. So cleaning it up isn't just about recreation, it's a massive logistical and economic triumph. All right, on to Section 3, Earth's volatile forces, lakes, fires, and earthquakes. Because as much as we try to tame water, nature always has its own raw power. Check out this number, 99.994%. That incredible statistic represents the extreme water purity of Lake Tahoe. If you don't know it, it's this gorgeous cobalt blue freshwater lake nestled right in the Sierra Nevada mountains on the border of California and Nevada. But as we know, pure natural beauty does not always equal safety. Despite those pristine, almost impossibly clear waters, Lake Tahoe was recently in the headlines for a really terrible tragedy. A boat capsized on the lake, resulting in 6 deaths and leaving 2 missing. It's a very stark reminder that no matter how serene an environment might look on the surface, volatile forces are always at play. And speaking of volatile forces, let's talk about fire. A major wildfire broke out recently on Chios Island. This is the 5th largest Greek island, located in the Aegean Sea, just 8 kilometers off the western coast of Turkey. Culturally, it's famous for producing mastic gum, so much so that it's actually nicknamed the Mastic Island. But recently, a fiercely dangerous wildfire broke out near the main town. It took water-dropping aircraft and over 100 firefighters just to bring those flames under control. So, from fire, we move to the deep rumblings of the Earth itself. Over 300. That is the number of small earthquakes recently recorded at Mount Rainier over in Washington state, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. This is a big deal, as it marks the most significant seismic activity at that mountain since 2009. It's fascinating to compare 2 towering stratovolcanoes making the news right now. You've got Mount Rainier, standing at 4,392 meters high in the U.S., featuring the largest single mountain glacier system outside Alaska, and currently shaking with over 300 earthquakes. On the other hand, you have Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. It's Africa's tallest mountain, the world's largest freestanding mountain, and completely peaceful right now. So peaceful, in fact, that mountaineering expeditions to it were just ceremonially flagged off by the Defense Secretary all the way from New Delhi. 2 massive volcanoes, but 2 completely different stories playing out. Which brings us to our final stop, Section 4, Geopolitics and Great Expeditions, where we'll look at modern global shifts. You see, geography isn't just physical rocks and water, it's heavily political. Take the Cook Islands as a prime example. This is a group of just 15 small islands, but geographically speaking, they're spread out over a massive 2 million square kilometers in the South Pacific Ocean. They sit right smack in the center of the Polynesian Triangle, roughly halfway between Hawaii and New Zealand. And that massive geographical footprint comes with major geopolitical ripple effects. Because of where they are strategically positioned, the Cook Islands are highly important. Recently, they have been building closer ties with China, and in direct response to that shifting alignment, New Zealand has suspended millions of dollars in budget funding to the island group. We are quite literally watching international relations shift in real time over this specific South Pacific territory. We're seeing similar geopolitical dynamics over on the African continent too. Let's revisit that grand Ethiopian Renaissance dam we mentioned earlier. It's built in Ethiopia's Benishangul-Gumuz region, but because it sits right on the Blue Nile, which is a major tributary of the broader Nile River, and because it's located right near the border with Sudan, its completion is a massive geopolitical event. Ultimately, whoever controls the flow of that water influences the power dynamics of the entire region. So as we wrap up this explainer, let's just take a step back and reflect. We've gone from 20-million-year-old proteins in Lake Turkana to ancient Peruvian cities. We've talked about Werner Heisenberg literally inventing quantum matrices while hiding from allergies on a tiny German island, right up to rumbling volcanoes and massive dams altering global politics today. Geography is never static, is it? The where completely drives the why and the story of our world. I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. From ancient fossils to modern geopolitical dams and shifting island alliances, which of these places do you think will most heavily define our future? Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and keep exploring the incredible currents of our world. Catch you next time.